Hi there, this is Jay Holston with Moving the Needle, and I'm really excited today because I'm getting to talk with a former member of my chief executive group, and he has started a new company called GatherRound, and he's spoken with us at our retreat, and just the group just is so much fun to have you back, Eric, speaking with the group, and your message just clicked with everybody. And so if you wouldn't mind, because you'll do a better job than me, if you could introduce yourself and then I've got some questions and things I'd love to ask you, and we can just kind of share some stuff with the group. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Real excited to be here. My name's Eric Harris. I'm the founder of GatherRound. I'm also on the executive education team out at TCU. I've been teaching there for about 7 years. I've spent a good amount of my career in advertising, about the first third of it. I did everything that an advertiser wants to do, everything ranging from Super Bowl spots to coupons on the tops of pizza boxes. Worked primarily on the Pizza Hut brand for a good run there. But I've always been in marketing and communications. I since then had started an ad agency where we focused on employment branding, worked with clients like Callaway Golf and Frost Bank. And now, I'm in this next wave of my career and I'm looking to do more teaching and a little less doing. And here I am.
Wow. And what an amazing background. I had forgotten about the Super Bowl spot, and that's definitely a unique differentiator. And one of the things I really like, Eric, is the breadth and depth of companies. You've worked with the large public ones, and you've worked with smaller innovative startup companies, and just you've figured out how to make it work with everybody. And you have this new topic, which is this titled Undeniable Momentum. And I mean, that sounds exciting. Can you kind of put a little bit more definition around undeniable momentum for us?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think one thing that as leaders it helps to just keep in mind is that your business is just constantly changing. The world around your business changes it. The world inside your business changes it. And as businesses grow and scale and they take on employees and then they get smaller and they scale up again, there's all these inflection points along the way. And it actually requires something different from leadership at every single one of those inflection points. And so, one of the things that we want to challenge Vistage members to ask themselves is, am I showing up today as the leader that my organization deserves? Are we in times of intense change? I
Hmm.
think a lot of businesses would answer yes to that. Are we in times of crisis? I think there are a lot of leaders that would say yes to that. And then also, are we in a time where maybe our team is divided on a topic? This might be as small or as significant as work from home versus hybrid versus in office, or it might be as big as what kind of customer experience are we creating for the people that hire us. So that those kinds of questions face leaders all the time, and leaders need to show up in those different contexts with different communications tools because we can't rely on our intuition and we can't use the same tools in every context.
Oh, absolutely not. And there were several good points you made there. Um, so thank you. One of the things that I was thinking back to was at the retreat, you introduced us to a method called the campfire method. Would you kind of help put a little definition around what it's based on?
Absolutely. So the campfire method is really built around four main criteria. There's knowing your audience, which is the fundamental first step of any good communication program. There's knowing your story, and there are several ways to tell that story. What we worked on is one called the movie trailer, and I can go into a little more detail about that. The third criteria is knowing yourself. So who are you as a storyteller, as a communicator? Where do you have strengths? Where do you have opportunity areas? What can you lean into to get the message across and inspire people? And then the fourth one is your environment. So let's not take anything for granted. Let's control the variables of time, location, and atmosphere so that they reinforce our message. And that's what the campfire method is built on.
Yeah, it was dramatic. And so one of the things that Eric did with our group is, everybody would put down different ideas of how they could apply it and then just real time help them walk through it and really build that self-confidence in how to kind of frame a message to deal with, whatever is the change or the adversity that your business must be, you know, having to deal with at that moment. And I think kind of what builds into that a little bit for me is kind of like why Vistage? I mean, you've worked with a lot of diversity. What is it about the Vistage community that you kind of feel like, hey, those are my people. That's who's going to get the most benefit from the gather around.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking that question. So first and foremost is I've been there. I've been in the seat. I know what it's like. I grew a company and sold it, and it was so much fun and so rewarding and so challenging at every single step of the way. I understand what it's like to be in that seat, and it's not easy. And I know that there are really a couple of dimensions that you probably have in mind. One is just this kind of scaling mentality. The level of maturity of your company changes when you go from 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 50. At every single point, you have to reapproach the way you typically communicate, both with employees, customers, the market, investors, the board, whoever might be a stakeholder in it. And then the other dimension is really, think about the fragility of smaller businesses as the world changes around them. Larger businesses, like the Fortune 500 companies, their reaction to tariffs is going to be a totally different reaction than a 10 or 20, 25 person company, not quite as resilient. So we as leaders need to be able to double down on our communications so that we can explain to people, customers, employees alike, what's changed, what's in it for us, and how maybe our plan has changed, but our vision hasn't. So there's all these different variables, but I'd say just because I empathize and I'm a big promoter of smaller businesses, and the tools that are used by the larger ones absolutely apply to all shapes and sizes.
And a lot of times the plan is changing. It
Mm,
is a situation, if it's a recession, you may have to do a pivot to a different type of a product. Or if it's a tariff, you may have to say, okay, instead of importing from this country, I now need to import from that country. And so
right.
there's a lot of shift and there's a lot of communication, as you mentioned, with your stakeholders, which are customers and suppliers and employees. And
Mhm.
you kind of have to have your A game to really figure out how to inspire and get people to want to follow you. And and
Yeah,
and and so that I can see how there's always something happening in the world that's forcing the requirement of the CEOs to be able to do this. And I guess that's maybe even my next question is everything you and I have been talking about thus far has been the CEO. But
mm,
as I think I've seen, and I've talked with a lot of my CEOs in one-to-ones, there's kind of communications fatigue, where they feel like it's all on them all the time. And I think there's value of having more people within the organization that can work and play in communications. I'm curious, have you seen that yourself?
absolutely. Yeah, no, and in firsthand and also from the consultant seat as well. It's so very clear that sometimes the responsibility to communicate can feel like a gift. It can feel like a privilege, and sometimes it can feel like a homework assignment. It can feel like something that you dread or don't look forward to. Sometimes it can feel like it's biting at your ankles, right? Like it's just this nagging sensation of, oh, I got to tell everybody what's going on. Right. And CEOs often kind of find themselves in this position of feeling like the chief reminding officer or the chief nagging officer. And that's not where we want to be. And so, what I am often counseling leaders at that level on is just like any other task you have on your plate, communications can be delegated and it should be. And so I would ask you, do you have the team that you can count on, that you can trust to communicate the vision and the strategic plan as well as you can. And if you don't, then scaling is going to be really difficult, especially if you're trying to create that flywheel momentum of communications in your company.
Absolutely. And when I asked that question, I had one of our members in mind, and he is in the business of all of a sudden I blanked out and described him the right way, but he is a broker that brings the importing in, and his clients are the folks like the Walmarts and the Dollar Generals and the Michaels and so he's run ragged in all these senior level meetings with all of these key customers that are having their world turned upside down. And it's just thinking what a heaven sent thing it would be if his team had this methodology to really be able to take it and deliver it so that he didn't have to be in every single meeting. And I think that is, one of the things we talk about a lot in Vistage is doing a better job of delegation and make it so the business can run without you. And I think a lot of us think about, many areas, but rarely do we discuss that in the terms of communications. And
Right.
so I think that what you're really doing is you're putting a spotlight on something that we have not been addressing in a thorough enough way. And I really think this is just fantastic. And so I appreciated you speaking with my group at our retreat, and just feel that what you have to offer is really valuable, and almost all of our members have plans to take advantage of it. So I guess one last question is, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they best do that?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. So you'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find GatherRound on LinkedIn. The email, or I'm sorry, the URL is gatherround.us. That's GatherRound. So two R's in the middle and then a .us on the end.
Well, yeah, we need to get labels on something on this
Yeah.
for the. But very good. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time, Eric. And so thank you so much. And just appreciate you spending some time with me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Take care.